Brian again. Here's another Lane's log for this week. Hey, before we get into it, just real quick, click the link below this video. It's a survey that we have set up to try and get some feedback because believe it or not, we are halfway through this summer course. That's right, half of our zombie exploration and tracking that figure down has already been completed. So we've set up a quick survey just to give us some feedback on how things are going, what's working, what isn't, to try and make some adaptations and things to the course, like that zombie that we're watching evolve right in front of our eyes. Well, this week and last week, we've got an opportunity to look at some modern zombie examples. I loved the discussion posts from the last couple of weeks. Really enjoyed being able to chat with you on George Romero. Just a couple of things about those discussion threads that are going on. The first is make sure you're checking in on multiple days. In every different thread, I posted a video about the relationship and importance of gender and race in the characters that are going on, especially about the character of Ben in Night of the Living Dead. Even if it wasn't in response to your specific post, please take the opportunity to be able to respond to that. We're really talking to everybody and hoping to generate a discussion. Think of those discussion threads as class discussion, so you're a part of all of them. The second thing I'll say about those discussion threads is remember to include the readings. This is an opportunity for you to not only watch the films, the videos, the television series that we're watching, but also to try and synthesize that with the readings that we have going on. Now, last week we got into Romero, and this week we're moving full steam ahead with Danny Boyle and 28 Days Later, and now we're into the fast-moving zombie. This is going to look very familiar to us, and we have heralded the arrival of Infection, hence my apparel and homage to the Resident Evil franchise that is going on for things. Now, let me just follow up. Last week, we said what were our big takeaways from the Haitian zombie experiment, and we want to continue doing that every week. In fact, let me make it more than just takeaways. Let's call these axioms. What do I mean by axioms? An axiom is a rule or a principle which we accept to be true. For example, in economics, an axiom is supply equals demand. So in zombie films, and when we're talking about the zombie as a rhetorical figure, what are the axioms? What are the rules that we see guiding these stories? The first, we already identified that the zombie is always raced, they're always gendered, they always have a nationality. Well, now with Romero, we can add a couple of more about that. When we looked at the Haitian zombie, we were very interested in how it was a reflection of things going on in the 1930s. And when you wrote about George Romero, it was a reflection of what's going on in the 60s. So the interesting thing about all zombie stories is they are about the present. They're not science fiction about the future. They're not romantic horror about the past. They all take place in our reflection on what's going on in society around us. They are a way that we understand our present anxieties and present threats that are going on. So that's our second axiom we can build up. In addition, many of you in your posts commented on how the zombies from Romero represented race or gender. We saw the laborers in the Haitian examples. Some people commented on capitalism. The zombie as a figure can be used to represent all kinds of different things. It can be representing capitalists. It can be representing consumerists. It's not all just Nazi zombies. There are all kinds. In fact, the figure itself is very, very empty and can be used to represent or signify anything. And in that signification, it comes to consume everything about that particular representative system. Just like that zombie horde we're identifying, its consumption of the rhetoric in its representational politics becomes overwhelming. So that's a third axiom we might add, that the zombie as a figure is something that can represent anything that is going on. And then a fourth axiom, we're really building them up this week, as many of you noted in your blog post from the first week and your blog post from this week doing character analysis, is these zombie stories, yes, they're about zombies, that zombies are violent, they are the figure of our story. This is, of course, about zombies, but all zombie stories are about the survivors. They're really about the survivors. What happens inside the farmhouse in Night of the Living Dead is in some ways more important than where the zombies are coming from or any of the items that are going on outside of the farmhouse. That's true of every story. All of these are about humans and how we are trying to survive with one another. In that sense, it's a metaphor in every case about how human society is trying to get along with one another. Now, this week, we've turned to Danny Boyle and 28 Days Later. And I know this is the birth of the infectious, fast-moving, really gruesome zombie that is going on. But let's think about this. Take a moment and watch in these films, any of the ones that you choose, and try and catalog how many people are killed by the zombies in these films versus how many are killed by other humans just trying to survive. I know my friends Jim and Major West behind me here would agree. These stories, the real threat, it's the survivors. It's the survivors, all right? So as we go through and catalog different things for our zombie stories, try and keep that in mind. We've got another blog post coming up for next week and a whole series to talk about this new, voracious, contagious zombie. Be careful out there, stay alive, and keep on hunting.